because
Hello
our
guys
points
and
leads at
welcome
the
to
moment
TFT NA
are,
Regional
as you said,
Finals.
it's
Set
going to
10,
be
last
Kyun,
day,
Malala,
game
and
number
Rain at
3.
the top. So where does Weird and Replay fit into that in terms of the AVP? We're getting into our third game now, and we've got Portal choice.
Right, it's going to be the artifact anvil right off the bat, and this is an interesting portal because one of the things that it does allow you to do is get generally strong direction early on in the game. When it's not uncommon to see people pop their artifact anvil on stage 1. If you can find something, depending on what your orb drop you, right? Maybe you find the Samira and you want to pop the anvil and say like, hey, is there actually a world where I just get collector? Because maybe Samira is not the strongest reroll composition in the meta, but if you have the proper conditions and oh my, talk about conditions for winning.
Okay.
Malala getting the set drop into the Heartsteel, the Cassante right off the bat too. But man, here's the thing. We have seen players, even with the Heartsteel opener in stage 1, stage 2, not immediately convert that into a top 4, right? I think we've seen many boards, and it's what we've been talking about all day, that these AD flex boards tend to live on a razor's edge. And if you are just 10 gold short, 1 life short, your potential first or second place suddenly turns into a 7th or an 8th.
And we totally saw that almost happen to Weird with the 13 HP at the very beginning of our day, where we're just like, no shot. Like, if he's able to hit, he's fine, but if he's not and he's broke, that is an 8th place for sure. But Dish Soap is one of those players that needs to turn things around a little bit and took the Heartsteel Cassante as well. Does not have that trait online though yet. Still looking for that third champion to fill it out, or the second champion, I guess, with the Heartsteel.
He does pre-level though, puts an extra push of XP into his board, meaning that he has a higher chance of getting the 2 cost, and now opens up his shop to early 3 costs as well. It is going to be a silver augment, which means that we're not going to see a significant power change coming right off the bat from the augments themselves, but this is the point in time where we'll probably see players pop these artifact anvils, figure out where they want to go from here.
Well, it's going to be Mogul's Mail, so you get a little bit of an econ trade, I guess, a little, and you do have the Gargoyle too, as you called out. So really nice defensive items on this Cassante to try to maximize some of the value you might get out of going Heartsteel later on.
Yeah, one of the things about Mogul's Mail is that it can be relatively inconsistent because you have to get that stacks. I'm struggling to remember exactly what the number is. I think it's like 40 stacks. Yeah, 40 stacks to actually get the gold proc, right? So if you don't have a strong enough front line, you're not going to be able to get value out of it. Because this show has the Gargoyle Stone Plate, though, it means that this Cassante is not going to die. We're seeing the mirror match, though, right? The 2 Heartsteel Cassantes going up against each other, Diamond Hands on the other hand, or on the other side of the board, and the Mogul's Mail on Dish Soaps.
I think that's so interesting because both of these players want to start a loss streak here, and it's going to be coming down to the wire. Both Cassantes go down at the same time, and now you're looking at just this super tanky set in the front, and it's going to be whether or not this punk board here from Dish Soap can actually break through that. So it will be Malala that goes down with the loss to start, and will hopefully be able to keep on that trajectory.
Yeah, Dish Soap did not actually have the Heartsteel in yet, right? So there's nothing wrong with losing. And in fact, losing on stage 2 versus winning with Heartsteel is not as big of a deal. However, look, we actually talked about this. You get a Samira drop from your orb, you pop your tome if you find the collector. I don't know for certain that we're actually going to see Replay play Samira from here. If he was looking to play Samira, most likely he probably would have slammed something like the Last Whisper instead, and then tried to keep his cloaks for maybe something like a frontline item on his eventual Amumu. This looks more to me like he's just trying to play some sort of tempo AD board, maybe trying to play around the AD flex that we've seen for so long throughout the entire weekend without Heartsteel. We'll say Replay 2 bot 4s. This doesn't necessarily feel like the most high roll opener in terms of like setting yourself up for additional resources in the future, right? Doesn't have the Heartsteel, but he does have the Olaf and 4 bruisers in his front line, so he's definitely going to be strong on stage 2. It's just a question of whether or not that can convert into the later stages of the game.
Yeah, the brews are super nice for the HP buff, right? And maybe it buys enough time for the Samira to be able to get that damage down. But I'm kind of curious about where he does take that because a Gold Collector, as you were calling out, is really for some of these sort of AD boards. Ezreal, Caitlyn, Lucian are all really good holders of that Gold Collector later on. But Samira with the country has also been relatively uncontested. We haven't seen too many players actually go down that route.
Yeah, I feel like uncontested is a bit of an understatement. I do remember Spencer played it yesterday, but it was a bot 4, right? Country is not a line that we've seen all too much this weekend at all. It doesn't mean, though, that there's not a condition in which it's viable, right? That's the beauty of a balanced state. Exactly. You find the spat, you get the gold collector, you high roll Samiras. Maybe we will see someone lean into it. I definitely don't think replay is locked into anything like that right now, though, right?
No, I don't think so. I think you're right about that one, but I'm interested to see where Degree goes with this because he doesn't have a headliner in at the moment. He's really rocking with the Pentakill and the Sentinel, and we've seen Pentakill be a very versatile trade to have in the early game because there's so many different branches that you can take from that, and even just having the Lilia in means that you could pivot to something like the Superfan a little bit later on.
He was holding the Kale with Gambler's Blade and the Gunblade. So I think he actually might be trying to make his mark relatively early in the lobby and saying like, hey, all you re-rollers, look at my board. I've already got the Kale.
Take Kale.
I've got the Gambler's Blade. Yeah, this is an item that the Kale can definitely utilize. Would not surprise me to see him go down that line. I think also it's important to keep in mind he's playing the Stationary Support 1 augment, which means that after, I believe, 8 combats, player combats, he'll get that support item. That also might give him more direction than what he has right now, right? That's one of the tenets of TFT is that you have to kind of balance power right now versus direction because it's very easy in this kind of game to get dizzy. And if you don't have clear direction and you aren't able to maintain a very flexible board state, especially on these big roll downs, oftentimes it can turn even really high roll positions into something like a bot 4. So players do typically really like to have some sort of direction early in the game.
We'll talk about direction. I'm looking at Rain's board right now with the Disco Taric, and when I see that Steadfast Heart as well as those Diamond Hands, I am immediately thinking of Blitzcrank. So this might really be just a disco board. I see the Static Shift Slam as well, and I'm like, oh, well, Ziggs is a great holder of that item. So is the Lulu. So, I don't know.
It's possible. I'm not buying into anyone committing to disco right now. No, I'm definitely not. It's possible. Certainly, I'm personally not subscribing to it quite yet. I have to see it before I believe. Malala, though, takes the early cash out, has the set 2 on his board. So this feels like a really, really interesting spot where you have the Heartsteel off stage 1, and instead of looking to play around the loss streak, even after the first cash out, the fact that he hits this set means that he actually has the potential to now try and play a stronger board. The biggest issue, though, is even with this strong front line, his back line is just, pretty pathetic, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
Quirky 1's not doing all too much.
No, but he's able to slam the items that we would typically see on something like an Ezreal carry. You have the red buff as well as the tier to be able to find just the last component to make the blue buff. So he is in a very, very good spot. And as you were saying before, like, you can definitely play the Heartsteel from a winning place and still come up with some of those components later on. We're going to be checking in on Degree, though, still with no headliner, with the Pentakill and the Sentinel as the 2 main traits on his board. And maybe he's able to find the headliner, but this is where I kind of go back to the question that we asked on the desk is, if you are T-posing with the Kale and those items, does somebody decide at that point to go, you know what, you're not allowed to have the Kale, and in fact, I'm gonna take that reroll line?
If someone happens into it, I think it's absolutely possible. But we say that, and just like that,
never mind.
finds the Kale, right? I mean, this makes sense, right? This is obviously high roll. This feels great for Degree, but this is where he was pointing his comp from the very beginning. And I think that even without hitting this, he has been saying to the lobby, signaling like, hey, I really want to play this Kale. If you want to opt into it, you're opting into more variants than if you just left me alone. And that's the nice thing about being able to signal that early is like, yeah, maybe you do open yourself up to a little bit of risk because you're playing more narrowly, but you also reduce the risk by making sure that everyone else who wants to reroll is going to be taking those other 2-cost rerolls instead.
I wish players in my lobby were that respectful. You know, that would be great. I had a game recently where I was trying to go Riven reroll, and someone was holding a two-star Riven with a punk emblem. I'm like, are you joking right now? But sometimes that's what you gotta do, is take those contests. We've seen players do that before by holding units on their bench so that it is way harder for another player in the lobby to actually hit their 3-cost reroll.
All right, I want to pay attention to Dishsoap's decision here because he's doing this really interesting thing where he has the additional gold from his artifact, right? And he has the opportunity right now to either hold expensive units on his board, leveraging that econ, and only sacrificing a single econ threshold, right? He gets to hold an Urgot pair and a Zac, units that are very, very high value later on in the game. And because of the fact that he has the Mogul's Mail that he's proccing every single round because he prioritized defensive items, he says, hey, I'll give away 1 gold this turn if it means that when I decide to rubber band, when I decide to start winning, I'm going to start beating everybody. Really great decision by Dishsoap. Love to see that.
Malala has a Blitzcrank too, by the way, on 3-2.
That's a recombobulator. I didn't even realize. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
where'd that come from?
I was like,
Wow.
that's insane. So huge recombobulator board, and this is one of those spots that you could play it. Recombobulator is definitely one of those high risk, high reward augments where you could recombobulate your board and then get a bunch of things that just don't synergize together. But Malala's able to make that work.
Wow, Diamond Hands and the Even Shroud are both going to be going on to... Wait, did he just he just removered the items, used both his removers and then put the items exactly where they were, right? Wasn't it Thieves Gloves on the Blitzcrank and then the Diamond Hands Even Shroud on the
I don't
Cassante?
know. Maybe just using the consumable? I'm not sure.
What,
Someone's going to have to go check
board?
the replay on that one because I don't know why Malala would have made that decision. But Dishsoap is working through the raise the stakes as we saw. So maybe getting a really nice cash out in the end of that. And Malala's still finding some direction here.
Malala having the set of a lifetime in set 10, right? The winner of the Vegas Open has the win at the KDA Cup final day at the Heartsteel Cup. And I think Malala's run contrasts Rain's, I think, pretty beautifully. Rain is one of those players who had really high highs back in set 7, winner of the Jade Cup, made it to the World Championship where she went all the way to the final lobby before falling short in a 7th place finish. And since then, has really just not recovered to the same form she was once in. This is a beautiful Cinderella story for Rain Plosion, who is back in set 10 in the form we once saw her, has made a great run all the way to the final lobby, and now is actually, after the first 2 games, in a decent spot sitting in the top 4.
She's been doing phenomenally, and even when you take a look at that average placement, she is tied with Replay for the 3.50. So even if for some reason she has a couple of bad games, maybe the rest of the people that take those top 3 spots will allow her to be able to win out on the best AVP. But as we head into the carousel here, this is going to be another Rod pickup, and I'm sorry, Gangly. I think this very well could be a disco board. You want a lot of rods to be able to make something like a TF work in that backline.
Yeah, she did take the rod. I'm like really not down to buy this until it actually happens. She did pass up the TF. It did have a sword on it though, so if she's looking to play TF, killing the swords apart from a single Sojin's a little bit tough. So maybe there is a world where she's still playing TF, but I'm like really not down to buy this until we see it.
I just wanted to keep planting the seeds of doubt, you know?
Wow, look at this line though. Weird playing what it seems to be is the Kai'Sa reroll, playing it on 7, not with super fans even online. I don't exactly know what has led Weird to be playing this board. It's not the variation of... Okay, no, it looks like it's probably not actually going to be Kai'Sa reroll. He just maybe happened upon this, was playing from tempo, and now at 3-5 was able to level and just play 2 Kai'Sas because he has the headliner big shot in place. And from here, it actually does look like he's probably going to be looking to play on level 8 around the Ezreal based on the items we're seeing here.
I was gonna say, you see the Infinity Edge and you see the red buff, and you're like, oh yeah, that is something
Yeah.
that Jin or Ezreal actually would really love to hold. So I will be keeping my eyes on what sort of 4-cost headliners all of these 80 flex players are gonna go for. Dish Soap is gonna lose again, and he's super healthy. Like, this is a very, very nice spot to be able to raise the stakes in.
He did have Little Legends, right? Little Legends, is that what it's called? Yeah, Little Legends right off the start, right? So he started the game with 130 HP, and this is where you get to see that really come to fruition and come to life. Even on the other side, Kiyun here is sitting, playing the Heartsteel board, 57 HP, certainly not the lowest HP we've seen for Heartsteel players, but even just look at the stacks. He's not about to cash out. He does not have that really large influx of resources coming his way like we would expect from Dish Soap, but they're going head to head right now. Both of them backlining the Casantes. It's just a question of whose board is actually weaker. I will say on the side of Kiyun, he has the Sunfire Cape and the Triforce, so there's more damage. But I mean, we're seeing this 3-item Casante on the side of Dish Soap start to get through that front line. I mean, which is, I guess, actually the back line. And it's going to come down to the heads up, the 1v1 between the two Casantes. I have no idea who's actually stronger in this position, though.
Well, I mean, the Mogul's Meal is also getting stacks, so I'm just kind of curious if the Gargoyle Stoneplate is also going to be enough. The Steadfast Heart also gives you crit, so it's 2v1, and these Casantes are just absolutely pummeling each other. But no way, it looks like it is going to be Kiyun winning that one. But could you imagine Dish Soap getting to like the very end where he gets his cash out and then he loses?
5 costs and gold.
Oh. The Kayn and the Jin.
Yeah, so he gets the cash out that we've been talking about all weekend that is in some ways easier to play, in some ways harder to play, right? Because he has a lot of money. He's going to be able to go 8 and roll very hard, but he has no items. And the 5 costs he hit, Kayn and Jin, are good in some ways, but bad in others. Jin is a unit that really does require proper setup. Strong frontline, mana generation like Blue Buff or Sojin. Kayn, on the other hand, not the kind of unit that you're going to be looking to play on any board. He's doing his big roll down right now, though, does have the Jin pair. Finds a Zed headliner, really nice pickup, but other than that, nothing is upgraded yet. He's not out of the woods yet. Finds a strong frontliner in the Zac 2 as well. Outside of that, though, from here, he's just looking for supplementary damage, right? Things that if the Zed is going to die, how else can he deal damage to the other side of the board? And he finds the 4 Crowd Diver, has the Kiana and the Yone online right now, which means he's going to be able to at least get additional resources onto his units via that Kiana. And if he can find some other items that maybe play into this Zed a little bit more, I think he'll be in a decent spot.
I think so too, and you saw the Lucian pickup as well, just to be able to hold it on the bench, so that's another way that Dish Soap can play flexibly around those backline units. It's sort of kind of, yeah, like what can he 2-star first and try to make sure is super strong. And we're gonna get a Prismatic Augment to finish out this lobby. It's an immediate reroll on the hologram there, but I'm sort of looking at the Pandoras and wondering if you take that to try to make sure that your items are super good.
I'm thinking, I was gonna say, I'm thinking Radiant Relics for a similar reason, but it's a little bit faster, right? Whereas Pandora's, you'll get good items. You have to wait. And because of the shape of the game Dish Soap has been playing, I think for him, he's kind of done losing. Like, I think he's a little over it, right? At this point in the game, he wants to figure out how he can start winning, despite the fact that, and you gotta call it out, his HP is looking great. 69 HP after a raise the stakes cash out means that Dish Soap's going to have multiple lives that allow him to try and ladder now all the way to level 9. If he can get a stronger board online at that point, he can cap out extremely high.
Well, as you were saying before, right, he took the tiniest Titan, so he did have that HP buffer, but the other thing that's really important here is that all of his losses were very calculated. He wasn't losing by more than 1 or 2 units for most of those, and now look how strong he is. That was an absolute obliteration of Replay's board, and that is a testament to just how much value Dish Soap has been able to get out of this board specifically. Rain, though, is on a loss streak, and without something like the Heartsteel in, you know, I gotta call it out.
She's on a loss streak, and I can tell you exactly why. Yeah, she is opting to play this disco line.
Do you believe me now?
Listen, you were right, and that is, in my opinion, the worst case scenario because now Rain is playing this disco line that we have not seen succeed, especially from behind. I don't think Disco is a composition that cannot succeed. I think that the way you play around Disco is that you need to get these legendary units online. Right now, though, she doesn't have things like the Alawi or the Ziggs or even like a Zac 2 to supplement your front line. With so many damage threats from the AD flex players, the fights are so fast, and Disco wants to play an extended fight. When the fights are too fast, TF doesn't have the time to ramp up, Ziggs doesn't have the time to ramp up, the front line falls, and because TF won't have enough single target damage, he really struggles to fight against these multi-threat compositions that we typically see in the AD flex boards.
Yeah, I'm even looking at some of the items, right? And I just don't really feel like that you have enough offense either. So maybe Ring can find something else, like heading into this next carousel, even looking at Raptors in just a couple of fights. She's still relatively healthy, like she still has 46 HP. She's not the lowest in the lobby, and in fact, the HP between everybody is quite close outside of Kiyun or Replay that are sitting in the 30s.
No, and that's a great call out. You know, before when I was saying the fact that she's playing it from behind, I had essentially seen that she was the third or second lowest in the health. What I hadn't actually noticed was how close that middle portion is. And if she's actually able to win a handful of rounds, she does have the new recruit, which is very strong on Disco. It allows you to both play the cheap one-cost units to give you a higher vertical, but it also opens up your board to have that many more legendary units if you can find them on 8. I do think it means that, wow, and great hit there from Degree, maybe a little bit later than he would have wanted, but looking at his health total, completely okay with that. But just to round out the Rain point, I think she's probably going to be stuck on level 8, at least for a little bit, which is not where TF wants to live. If Rain wants to top 4 this, we're going to have to find a way for her to actually get to level 9 and get some of these stronger, more expensive units on board.
I'm in total agreement with you there, because you really want to have like that Ziggs and Alawis you were mentioning before. But Degree, super sitting pretty. You look at sort of the Mordekaiser that you'd love to be able to 3-star to tank most of the damage for this Kayle. And he's not too far off. He does need 4 more copies, but when you look at how many other players are playing Mordekaiser, it's not very many. So it could be relatively uncontested for Degree to be able to 3-star that. That is another hit that Replay is taking, though. And that is starting to look a little scary.
He's taken a lot of hits, and that's a very important thing to note. I mean, this was the point leader after day 1. This is the person leading AVP after game 2. Replay going into the weekend. There's this entire conversation about where he fits in the big picture of TFT. Fighting for his spot in this big 3, big 4, saying, yeah, you know what, Setsuko, Weijin, Dish Soap, these are great mainstays, but I belong to be there. And right now, it's not the start to the tournament that he really is looking for.
No, it's so tough, though, because there's so many players that are playing that AD flex line, and if you're trying to build those items for a specific carry, like Ezreal, maybe you have to play this Caitlyn instead, doesn't really feel fantastic. And I'm even looking at these Zed items, and I'm not perfectly happy with what I've got on that headliner.
So I actually feel pretty good about the Zed items typically. Because all right, think of it this way: like the shape of this Zed is that you have the Runance, because you have a lot of just base AD. The Runance feels pretty good. You have the Gunblade. Right, yeah. The Gunblade does help keep the Zed alive, and the Sterix gives you the additional AD when it procs, more sustainability, and so I actually think it synergizes really well together, even if it's not the best in slot Zed items that you would normally see. The build is actually relatively creative. The thing is, having the Caitlyn 2 on board right now is definitely an upgrade versus what we saw a few rounds ago, where it was just like an Ezreal 1, but you are playing this Caitlyn with the red buff and the IE, which are certainly not bad, but clearly items that you were looking to play on Ezreal. If these Caitlyn items were something like, I don't know, Giant Slayer, Runans, straight damage, even Sojin, I think I would feel a little bit better, but this is clearly an Ezreal item, like a series of Ezreal items that just landed on a Caitlyn.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Is like you would rather have the Ezreal here, but I think you gotta make the most of what you got just based on how many players are playing that AD flex. Like here's Dish Soap, for example, that has also had the great cash out so far, especially with the raise the stakes that we saw earlier on in the game. But when you go and look at some of these other AD flex boards, like Kyun is still on a loss streak here, trying to get this cash out and stabilize, and he's not looking too hot. He's got 11 HP here.
No, Kyun definitely in trouble. And man, this fight was looking really good for replay until that Ezreal got onto the Caitlyn in the backline. Once that Caitlyn was gone, there was not enough damage, and you really need the single target damage to try and take out that Zed. That's one of those fights that there's probably a positioning thing that replay could have done to save that fight. But those are the margins you're playing on, right? You can't afford to leave it up to RNG. You have to try and make optimizations, maybe even sometimes splitting the difference between your matchups, because one positioning change could probably have one replay that fight. And at the end of it, he goes down to just one life.
Yeah, so it's definitely do or die, and for replay, like he really can't handle taking another bottom 4. Otherwise, we are going to continue to see those gaps get closed in terms of the AVP race. But there are so many AD Flux players. Like, let's just take stock of that for a second. We've got Dish Soap, Weird, Malala, as well as replay and Kyun, and then on the other side of things, we've got Guard.
Precedent goes down. Replay goes down in 7th. Wow, this is a horrible start for replay, who's leading average placement going into the day. Now certainly not in the lead because he was tied, I believe, with Rainplosion going into this game. With Rain now outplacing him, definitely going to be a position where Rain can now try and seek out that AVP slot. And she's playing this disco board that we've been talking about and has now hit level 9. And this is the condition in which this comp is actually kind of playable, right? You have 4 Dazzler, a very strong synergy. You're able to also play this Jazz, the Jazz variation where you're playing on 9 with the Lucian. I will say the front line, despite the fact that there are a lot of units, the front line's not actually that inspiring. The Blitzcrank will survive, but if you have things that have backline access, for instance, the Ezreal ultimates, or if a Zed is able to ladder on the opposite side of the Blitzcrank, there's still a lot of ways where this disco board can fall. But we're hopping on with Kyun right now, who is on his last legs as well, up against, I believe, his Dish Soap's board, and he's going to fall. And just like that, Kyun and Rain both are eliminated at 5-3. We've got our top 4.
We do have our top 4, so yeah, the disco board is not able to break through what we have seen in terms of just that. It can't breach the surface, I guess, is what I would say, because we haven't really seen it ever go top 4 in any of these lobbies this weekend, unless you're looking at the EMEA regional finals. But now that we look at our top 4, Degree is still win streaking. Like, this is a very, very strong board now. You do have the kill that came online a little bit late, and still looking for the Mordekaiser 3 in the front, but you're really on a good pace here. And I just saw the Viego 2 upgrade as well, so that's going to be really big.
Yeah, Degree definitely needs it too, right? 2 poor performances in games 1 and 2 with a 7th and a 6th. Currently at the bottom of the standings. Going to need to find some sort of top 2 performance to slingshot himself back into the standings, but at this point in time, we've got some really strong boards left. It's essentially the players who are playing AD Flex and hitting, and then the re-rollers who also hit. At this point though, right, even the player in 4th, Weird, right now, who's probably the weakest in the lobby, is a board that clearly was able to take out the disco board of Rain. I think it's one of those things though where you're starting to reach critical mass for these boards from Dish Soap and Malala, who are playing Heartsteel for so long, and while they may be losing to Degree right now, I don't know for sure that Degree will be able to cap out higher, especially if he's not able to hit that Mordekaiser 3 soon and deal a lot of damage to these boards while they're still in the earlier stages of the end game.
Well, you can see in Weird Shop that the Mordekaiser is still in the pool. It just is whether or not we will see Degree actually find those. Weird does find a Caitlyn too, feeling way better about the items. Yeah, the Yorick too as well. That's a huge, huge hit.
This is the point where, you can upgrade your boards, but tempo does matter. And the HP they're able to preserve up until this point is going to play a
Keep
huge
going up
role
against
in
each other.
defining where you end up. Yeah, here it is, Malala. You could just see, look at all the items on Malala's board with the Heartsteel cash out still prepped and ready coming into the next fight. So Malala, extremely powerful, but he's not even done. However, this Poppy on the side of Weirds made its way into the back line. There's not enough damage, and the Poppy will be enough. Malala actually going down to 10 HP.
10 HP, but now with the cash out and the dragon. So you're getting so many items here, maybe a lot of gold. That's actually going to be Degree with 95. Awesome. He's definitely feeling good about that. You can just go to level 9 and start to roll for some really, really big things here. But do you do that when you're still looking for your Mordekaiser?
I mean, you can definitely cap out at 9, right? You have the opportunity to just play legendaries, but Degree's got his eye set on 9, and it looks like Dishop's got his eye set on level 10. He's currently level 9, 70 gold, 80 gold. He is going to instantly go 10. What does he add? He adds the... Oh, he wasn't actually playing Ezreal on his board. So now he's able to get the additional synergies for this 3 Jazz board. Has the Big Shot in. Has the Heartsteel in as well. He's going to be doing some sort of transition. 3 items on his Zed. That Zed with the Radiant Giant Slayers. Oh, and this is so much power from the Zed, right? You're going to be going up against boards with very strong frontline in the end game. Having sustain on the Zed alongside the Radiant Giant Slayer means that Zed will cut through the enemy lines, but Malala does have a diamond hands on this Thresh. Let's see if that makes a difference.
Well, it's not. I think is the answer to that question. After the Zed is able to get through that front line, the Diamond Hands goes down, and this Zed, as you called out, it's going to be so much on-ramp and so much healing for this board. So Malala is going to go down in 4th place here. Now looking at how far can we actually go, because Degree did just level to 9 and starting to do a little bit of a roll down here to find some upgrades.
Able to get 7 pentakill in now with the Yorick. With Malala dead too, it does mean that those 3 Yoriks are put back into the pool. It's really a question now, how does Degree want to cap out his board, right? Dishop has an insanely high cap in this lobby. If you're Degree, I actually wonder if there's an argument to just wait a little bit, because the only way you are going to be able to beat Dishop is by having everything. 3-star Mordekaiser, the 2-star Yorick, maybe even trying to 3-star one of your 4 costs alongside that.
I saw the Viego pair on the bench.
Yeah, there's a world where maybe he looks to cap out that way, because otherwise it feels like Dishop's going to run away with it.
I'm in agreement there. So I think that's why you hold the Viegos and see if you are able to roll a little bit more gold, because you know that you also have a ton of health as well. Degree is the healthiest player in this lobby by a pretty far margin. So you've got an extra life on somebody like Dish Soap, and especially Weird, who is sitting at that 6 HP.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if Dishop is sitting at 1 life, I think if you're Degree, you just send it right now, because you want to kill him before he caps any higher. And what Dishop actually needs right now is time. He needs gold, because he spent all of his gold getting to level 10, and he has many different ways to upgrade this board right now, right? Look at all the 1-star units, look at all the item slots available. So the thing that makes this so difficult, though, is that Dishop has multiple lives. So if you are Degree and you send it and miss, you just lose automatically. But you can see right now, even on the backside of Dishop's fight, Degree has a full bench and is trying to actually cap out much higher. But actually, even the board, how it is right now, breaks through Dishop's. Dishop actually goes down to 1 HP with that loss there. And on the left side, Weird gets a win against the Ghost. So in a board that I thought was strong enough to beat Degree, Dishop loses that fight. And though he does have different ways to cap out his board, may not have time to get there.
I would love to take stock of where that Karthus is, because I saw that Degree did get a Karthus 2. And so maybe that is another way that you get some backline access, so that those 1-star units just get chunked by something like that. And we are going to take a look at it. There's no items on this Karthus, so you're not totally ramping up in the way that, like, you might want the Karthus to be able to get those crits, but look at how strong this front line is, still having the Steadfast Heart as well as the Redemption on that Mordekaiser. Missing out on the Mordekaiser 3, though, still hurts, but we're seeing Degree just go for the full roll down here, knowing that you are going to have to get some big, just go for the gold here. It's just dish soap.
Able to get Edgelord online too for Degree. He did not have Edgelord because he needed the 7 pentakill, but because he's able to get the spatula, all of a sudden his board gets a lot stronger for both the Kale and the 3-item Viego. I have to imagine this will make a difference, but we've seen Weird's board do quite well with that 3-item Poppy. It's very hard for units to take it out. Even you're looking at it right now, the Kale struggling to get through it, and this Caitlyn in the back line is free firing. Weird takes that fight, Degree takes a loss, and Dish Soap stays alive.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine if he erased his takes there? I would have maybe lost it.
That's a headliner Jin.
Wow, that is definitely one way to higher cap this board, and we were worried about that, Gangly. Where can Dish Soap actually take this, and now Degree, does he have enough time to actually make things even better? You see the Yorick too, he could sell something to get that in, so that is a huge upgrade for him to hit. But look at all the Karthus that are sitting on his board, the Viego as well, still no more 3.
No more 3. It looks like Dish Soap is playing the real board. I believe Degree is playing the Ghost. So on the left-hand side, we see Dish Soap right now. This Jhin without any sort of mana generation that typically is the bane of Jhin, even when upgraded, because it does take some time to ramp up. But the Poppy's going to fall between the Jhin and the Lucian. They're on the back line now. Dish Soap stays alive, and Weird is going to fall in 3rd place.
That is a huge knockout here, and now going into yet another Elder Dragon. Dish Soap and Degree still have room, and that's an Alawi too. Wow, you even get the Israel 2 as well as the Yorick 2. You just want some gold to come out of this dragon.
Dish Soap has been known for so long as one of the best players. There's the joke of Dish Soap is the PP, the perfect player, right? But he's still chasing that tournament win. He is the only player in the Big 3, in the Big 4, to have never won a North American tournament, and he's never qualified for the World Championship. With 2 5th places, he's in the middle of the pack right now, and it's so beautiful to watch him pilot this 80 flex board into the highest cap. Cass talked about it at the top of the show too. This is where Dish Soap wants to live. He can cap boards better than anybody else, and we're watching it happen for our eyes.
I mean, this happened in day number 2 as well, right? Where we can see a lot of prime examples where Dish Soap is so good, but the Mordekaiser 3 is finally hit on Degree's side, and that might just be the front line that he needs in order to withstand the onslaught of all of these backline carries from Dish Soap.
So much power. Both of these boards are looking to try and play front to back. Whose front line is going to break first? It actually looks like Dish Soap's front line will break, but now another ult from the Lucian will be enough to kill the Kale. The Kale kills both the Lucian and the Jhin at once, and Dish Soap takes a 2nd place. Degree playing Kale reroll all the way to a 1st.